Welcome to this English lesson about mishaps. If you aren't sure what a mishap is a small accident or something that goes wrong during your day. Usually something where you don't have a major injury or a major problem. Usually when you have a mishap, it's a small thing that's kind of annoying during your day. There's a couple different kinds of mishaps, and I'll explain what the mishaps are that I'm going to be talking about in this lesson. So once again, welcome to this English lesson about mishaps, small little annoying things that sometimes happen during your day, little accidents or little things that happen that just make your day less enjoyable than it should be. So there are two kinds of mishaps. There are minor mishaps and there are major mishaps. This lesson is primarily going to be about minor mishaps. You can see this car has a small dent in it. Maybe this person parked in a parking lot at the mall and someone hit their car and put a small dent in it. That would be a minor mishap. So minor again means minimal or smaller or not big. So a minor mishap. And this is a major mishap. This person obviously got hit by someone else on the front, and there is a lot of damage. Generally, minor mishaps result in minor annoyances and maybe minor injuries, whereas a major mishap would result in a lot of damage or major injuries. So this lesson primarily about minor mishaps. And once again, mishaps are small accidents or things that occur in your day that are just extremely annoying, bothersome, might even injure you a little bit, like a scrape or a small cut. But this lesson will mostly be about minor mishaps. And the first one is a slip. I think you could see in the thumbnail, I tried to recreate a person stepping on a banana peel. I don't know how often this actually happens in life, but when you step on something like a banana peel, or when you step on ice, you can slip. When you slip, it means that your feet kind of come out from under you. It's different than a trip. When you trip, there's something in front of you that your foot gets caught on and you fall forward. When you slip, it means you're on something that's slippery. I'm not sure if you know that English word. If you step on a banana, because the banana is slippery, you might slip. When you step on the ice is slippery, you might slip. When you step on something like this extension cord, you might trip. So you might trip when you step, when your foot gets caught on something like an extension cord. And just so you know, we often say slip and fall or trip and fall. Don't step on that banana peel. You're going to slip and fall. Watch out for that extension cord. You might trip and fall. So hopefully you know the difference now between slip and trip. We also have a minor mishap called a grass stain. This often happens with children. Children might be wearing clean clothes and they go and play outside, and when they come in, there are grass stains on their pants. Green grass, when you rub fabric against it, if you slip and fall outside or if you trip and fall, you might get grass stains on your pants. And there's nothing bad about grass stains, except they're really hard to get out. When you wash pants with grass stains, the grass stains aren't always easy to get out. So another little mishap can be a grass stain. And then of course we have something called a spill. Now, interestingly enough, this is, instead of putting a spill over there or putting to spill, I just put spill because this can be a verb or a noun. So you might spill your coffee and then there's a spill on your desk. Oh, watch out. There's a spill in aisle 4 of the grocery store. But a spill is any time you have liquid in a cup and I shouldn't demonstrate this, it falls over and the liquid spills out of the cup. So over here we have a spill. Someone has spilled their coffee. And then of course we have when you drop something. So this works as a verb only. So there's an egg that I dropped on the floor. I didn't actually drop this on the floor. It's just a picture. But when you are working in the kitchen, When you're working, anytime you are holding things in your hand, you might drop something. So when you drop an egg, you have to clean it up. It slows your day down a little bit. It's definitely a very minor mishap. And then you have a cut. So I'm going to go through some minor injuries right now. I do need to warn you, these are all minor, but some of them do show a tiny bit of blood. So if you have an aversion, if you don't like the sight of blood, you've been warned. I should have told you that before I switched to this side. Sometimes you get a cut. Sometimes when you're using paper as a teacher, you get a paper cut. It's probably the biggest hazard on our job, at our job, is to get paper cuts because we use so much paper. But one little mishap during your day might be that you get a small cut. You might be doing something in the kitchen and you cut yourself with a knife by accident, or you might be a teacher like I am and you might get a little paper cut while you're at work. We also have what's called a scrape. So if this kid had been wearing pants, he would have had grass stains, but instead he's wearing shorts and somehow he scraped his knee. This is a very common mishap for children who are playing outside. A lot of times they will scrape their knee on something. Maybe they'll be running on pavement and they'll fall down and their knee will hit the pavement and they will scrape their knee. So once again, let me go back though and say something. This is both a verb and a noun. I cut myself with a knife. Now I have a cut on my finger. I cut myself. I have a cut. I scraped my knee. Now I have a scrape on my knee. So a lot of times in English, we use our verbs and nouns. The word can be used both ways. And most of these injuries work that way. And I'll make sure I keep you in the know. Scratch. So here we have, it kind of looks like a cut, but I found a picture with a cat in the background because often a cat will scratch. If a cat is friendly, it won't scratch, but sometimes a cat will scratch. So here we have a scratch on someone's hand because the cat scratched them. Don't play with that cat. It might scratch you and then you'll have a scratch. So again, we're using it as a verb and a noun. Bump. So this guy bumped his head. Now he has a bump on his head. When you are working where there are things that are low above you, you might accidentally bump your head or bump into it. I bump my head at the gym. There's one machine at the gym where for some reason it's just out of my eyesight, but still lower than my height. And so I always bump my head on it. I've done it 3 times now. I need to stop doing that. But certainly a minor mishap in your day would be to bump your head. And then we have a bite. We talked about this last week or a couple weeks ago. Mosquitoes will bite you, and then you have a mosquito bite. So once again, verb and noun. So the other day I was outside and a lot of mosquitoes were buzzing around. And then I thought, oh, the mosquito is going to bite me. I better go in the house because I don't want to get a mosquito bite. Similar for sting. Wasps and bees will sting. So you want to avoid getting stung by a bee or wasp because you don't want to have a bee sting. There was a bee flying around outside a few weeks ago and I was worried the bee was going to sting me. And so I ran away because I didn't want a bee sting. Never fun to have a bee sting. Bruise. So a bruise is when you accidentally fall or something hits you and then under your skin it turns a little bit red and purple and blue. The last bruise I got was when I was using a wrench and I was pulling and the wrench popped off the bolt and it hit me right here and I had a bruise here. So whenever you get hit by something, when you bump your head, you might get a bump, but you also might get a bruise in the same spot. A twist or sprain. So I mentioned this, I think a week or 2 ago. When I was in university, I was playing baseball and I was running to second base and my foot landed half on the base and half off and I twisted my ankle. When you twist your ankle or sprain your ankle, it just means your ankle has moved in a way it's not supposed to, in a bad way. and now you have a lot of pain. You might even have a bruise from that. And we do use twist and sprain the same word when we're talking about ankles. Oh, he twisted his ankle. Oh, he sprained his ankle. We don't often use it for other things though. Like you can sprain your wrist, right? But you wouldn't use twisted. But you could say, oh, he twisted his ankle. He sprained his ankle. Never a nice injury. Very, very painful. Sunburn. So depending on how fair your skin is, you might have different levels of sensitivity to the sun. My skin is very fair. When I go out in the sun, I need to wear sunscreen. I need to wear suntan lotion. Otherwise, I can get a sunburn. Jen burns even more easily than I do. So Jen wears a lot of sunscreen in the summer. I can go outside for about 15 minutes, half an hour, and I will not get a sunburn, but Jen will burn a lot more quickly than that. So if you are someone who is prone to sunburn, it is not a nice mishap. I hate it when I forget to wear suntan lotion and I go outside and get a sunburn. There's also something called a nosebleed or a bloody nose. When I was a kid, I used to get bloody noses a lot, especially in the winter. In Canada, in the winter, the air in our homes is very dry, and that can cause some people to get bloody noses or a nosebleed sometimes. So not a nice thing to have happen. I once, as an adult, had a bloody nose at a public event. I was sitting in the audience watching a play, and all of a sudden my nose started bleeding. So I quickly just kind of ran to the washroom to take care of it. But never a nice thing to have happen during your day. Not a nice mishap. A sliver or splinter. So there are two words for this, what is happening right here. When you work with wood, sometimes you might get a sliver, you might get a splinter. I use the word sliver. I think sliver is more common in this part of the world, especially in my local region. We would say, oh, I got a sliver from that piece of wood. Some people use the word splinter, but for me, the more common word is sliver. But can be painful. And then sometimes you get a pair of tweezers from the bathroom. Tweezers are like a little tiny tool that you can use to pull out a sliver or a splinter, but never fun to get a sliver. None of these mishaps are fun, by the way. I keep saying never fun to get a sunburn, never fun to have a bloody nose, never fun to get a splinter. It's never fun to stub your toe. I would call this a minor mishap. When you stub your toe, it means you accidentally walk into something. Maybe you're walking through your kitchen and you hit the leg of the table and you stub your toe. I do have a funny story about this as well. One time, a long time ago, Jen and I were getting ready to go visit her parents, and I was walking outside in bare feet and I stubbed my toe. But it actually wasn't a minor mishap. It was a major mishap because I broke my toe and I had to go to the hospital so they could set my toe. So when you stub your toe, it's not broken. It just hurts a lot. But if you stub your toe really hard, you can break your toe, and that is not a nice feeling at all. Never fun to stub your toe. Okay, this might seem like a big word for you, but overexertion. Let me say it one more time. Overexertion. When you overexert yourself, it means you do more physically than your body is able to do. You lift something that is too heavy. You reach for something that's too far away. Maybe you try to throw something that weighs a lot. You do something where after you do it, you have pain. So if you lift something heavy, you might have pain in your back. When you throw something, you might